In a world overflowing with noise, competition, and distractions, very few people ever discover what truly separates those who are forgotten from those who become absolutely unforgettable. Most spend their entire lives imprisoned by comfort, excuses, and emotional impulses that sabotage their potential long before the world even sees who they could have become. But there is a rare path, a mindset so powerful and ancient that it forges people into leaders others depend on, admire, and follow without hesitation. Today, this video will unlock that path. How to stop being mediocre and become indispensable to people responsibly through Stoicism. What you are about to see is not motivational sugarcoating or empty positivity. It is transformation through discipline, clarity, and unbreakable emotional control. Make sure to watch every detail until the end, because a single insight missed can be the difference between living an ordinary life or stepping into a version of yourself capable of influencing, guiding, and inspiring everyone around you. And if you're ready to start this journey, if you feel something inside pushing you to evolve, leave your like right now. Not for the algorithm, but as the first act of commitment to the person you are about to become. Let's begin. At midnight, when the world is asleep and the streets hum quietly with the echoes of forgotten ambitions, a question rises like a shadow no one wants to face. Why do some people become unforgettable while others dissolve into anonymity? The air feels heavy with the silence of thousands who once dreamed loudly and now whisper their desires only to themselves. Mediocrity is not born from lack of talent, but from the surrender that happens in the soul long before it appears in the flesh. Marcus Aurelius once wrote that a man's worth is no greater than the worth of his ambitions, and yet most spend their lives aiming at nothing, hitting the mark every time. We walk among people who live in reaction, not purpose, people who wait for approval instead of rising with conviction. The story begins with us, standing in the cold mirror of the world, wondering if we have the strength to fight the enemy within rather than the enemies outside. The truth is unsettling, and that is why it matters. We were not crafted to drift like leaves in the wind. We were forged to become pillars for others to lean on, but becoming indispensable demands that we face storms, not avoid them. Seneca said, "Fire tests gold, suffering tests brave men. If suffering is the great sculptor, then most run from the chisel, begging life to strike softly. Yet those who refuse softness, those who endure the sharp blows, become the few whose presence changes rooms, changes lives, changes destinies." We learned early that the path to greatness is not paved with applause, but with quiet mornings of discipline and nights where no one sees the cost. Behind every indispensable soul lies a cemetery of excuses they refuse to resurrect. And as the world watches only the outcome, they never see the silent battles that carved the character capable of holding everything together when others fall apart. The mediocre ask life to be easier. The indispensable ask themselves to be stronger. It is not arrogance, it's responsibility. True Stoics do not seek comfort but clarity, for clarity sharpens our vision to see what truly matters. Epictetus once warned, "Difficulties show what men are." If that is true, then every obstacle we face is not a punishment, but an invitation to discover whether we are built of paper or steel. When fear whispers that the task is too heavy, the indispensable respond not with emotion but with will. They do not escape their emotions, they master them. The storm still rages inside them, but the helm never leaves their hands. Courage is not the absence of trembling, but the refusal to stop moving even while trembling. Some believe indispensability is about pleasing everyone, about being accepted and adored. They are wrong. The indispensable are not liked by all, they are respected by those who recognize strength when they see it. The world never praises the one who bends to every wind. The world turns instinctively to the one who stands firm. If you want to improve, Epictetus taught, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Every indispensable person has walked through the valley where others mocked, doubted, underestimated, and they kept walking. Because their compass did not point to applause, it pointed to purpose. They were not shaped by opinion, but by values that did not tremble even under pressure. But the journey is not solitary, though many parts feel like it. There is a silent brotherhood and sisterhood of those who refuse mediocrity, the few who rise while others sleep, who build while others complain, who take responsibility while others escape it. We know the weight of the armor we carry, yet we also know the effect of dropping it. Somewhere inside, we share the same battle, the war against the comfortable version of ourselves. And while we walk our own paths, we are never truly alone. Because everyone who fights this war recognizes its scars in the eyes of another. That recognition is not spoken, it is felt. So again the question returns, why do some become unforgettable while others fade? We stand at the gates of the answer, but it is not time to open them yet. What shapes the indispensable? What kills the mediocre? And why does the battle take place within us, not around us? The path ahead is long and unsettling, but necessary. For to walk it is to reclaim what we once lost, the power to decide who we are, not who the world tells us to be. If we continue, we will reach the answer that has echoed since the beginning of this story. There comes a moment in the journey when the weight of the world seems almost unbearable, and that is precisely where most people turn back. The mountain of responsibility rises before them, and they choose the valley of excuses because it feels safer. But those who refuse mediocrity understand that safety is the most expensive prison ever built. The bars are made of comfort, and comfort never sets anyone free. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, if it is endurable, then endure it. And so the indispensable do not crumble when life presses down, they press back. They breathe through the pain, not because they are stronger than others, but because they refuse to let weakness make decisions for them. The climb hurts, yet each step builds a version of us that cannot be broken by the storms that once terrified us. On the road upward, we discover that self-control is not about suppressing emotions, but commanding them. Anger becomes fuel instead of fire that burns us from the inside. Fear becomes a compass instead of chains that paralyze us. The world tries to provoke reactions, hoping we will lose ourselves in frustration and chaos, but the indispensable answer with discipline instead. Seneca said, "He who is brave is free, not free from challenges, not free from doubt, but free from the tyranny of impulse." And when people around us lose themselves to rage, panic, and insecurity, we learn to remain calm not for superiority, but because someone must stay standing when others collapse. That steadiness is what makes people rely on us without ever needing to ask. As we continue the climb, we learn that courage is not the opposite of fear. Courage is the decision to move forward even when fear screams in our ears. The mediocre wait for confidence to arrive before acting, but the indispensable act first and allow confidence to follow. They understand that no one is born ready. Readiness comes only through repetition, under pressure. Epictetus taught that no man is free who is not master of himself, and mastery demands stepping into discomfort again and again until discomfort becomes familiar. And in that repetition, something changes, not the weight of challenges, but the strength of the one who carries them. Suddenly, what once broke us becomes manageable, and what was once terrifying becomes simply the next step on the path. But there is another lesson: the indispensable learn greatness is never loud. It does not announce itself, does not seek applause, does not beg for recognition. The most valuable people in society are not those who shine for a moment, but those who remain steady for a lifetime. They are the ones others turn to in crisis, the ones whose presence alone brings clarity and direction. They do not need to impress anyone because their actions speak with a force that words cannot imitate. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one, Marcus Aurelius warned. And so the indispensable live by action, not opinion, building respect where others chase attention. Respect cannot be demand. It is earned through consistency that never wavers. Along that path, we will lose people. Some will drift away because our growth reminds them of their stagnation. Others will resent the discipline they do not have, and a few will try to pull us back into the comfort we left behind. But the indispensable understand that greatness requires sacrifice. They walk forward even when the crowd watches from behind, even when loneliness brushes their shoulders like a cold wind. They know that isolation is temporary, but the strength earned from walking alone becomes permanent. And when they finally find others who carry the same fire within, the same hunger for mastery, the same courage to fight their inner battles, they recognize one another without a word. That silent brotherhood is the reward for those who never gave up. So we climb together without denying the pain, without pretending the battle is easy. What separates us from mediocrity is not perfection, but perseverance. We fall, we fail, we bleed, but we get up every time because surrender is no longer an option. A mediocre life is the slow death of the soul, and we refuse to die before our heart stops beating. The indispensable aren't gifted, they are relentless. And as the fog begins to clear near the peak, a realization forms like a whisper of thunder. Maybe the question from the beginning was never about the world at all. Maybe the real battle has always been about who we decide to become when no one is watching, whether we choose the comfort that kills us or the discipline that transforms us. We are close now to the answer that has shadowed us from the first sentence. But the conclusion deserves its own moment, its own weight, because once spoken, nothing will feel the same again. At the final stretch of our ascent, something unexpected happens. The world does not suddenly become easier, nor do the storms fade, nor does destiny reward us with applause. Instead, we discover something far more unsettling. The true enemy has never been the world, it has always been ourselves. Every moment of procrastination, every surrender to fear, every excuse cloaked as logic, every emotion allowed to command our actions, these were the architects of mediocrity. And the one who becomes indispensable is simply the one who conquers that inner saboteur. Epictetus warned, "No man is harmed by another, he is harmed by his own opinions." We begin to see that life was never denying us greatness. We were denying it to ourselves, and in that realization lies both terror and liberation, because once we know the truth, we can never again pretend we are powerless. It is here, in this revelation, that self-mastery becomes more than discipline, it becomes identity. We no longer resist temptations and destructive emotions merely to appear strong. We resist because we refuse to betray the person we are becoming. We do not suppress fear, we take it by the hand and walk forward anyway. We do not silence pain, we let it teach us. We do not run from responsibility, we embrace it as the cost of significance. Seneca said, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult." And when we dare to stay disciplined, to stay courageous, to stay calm in storms, we become not only useful but necessary. People start to rely on us not because we promised greatness, but because we showed it without needing to speak. What makes us indispensable is not talent, beauty, intelligence, or luck. It is the ability to remain unmoved by the chaos that consumes others. It is the ability to think clearly when emotions demand surrender. It is the ability to act with purpose when fear begs for comfort. And those abilities are not gifts, they are forged through pain, repetition, and an unbreakable commitment to become more than we were yesterday. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Stop trying to be the person you were yesterday, become the person you need to be today." The world does not remember the mediocre because the mediocre abandon themselves, but the indispensable become unforgettable because they refuse to abandon their mission even when no one is applauding and no one is watching. And then comes the moment when everything changes. People begin to look at us differently, not with envy, but with trust. They come to us not because we ask for attention, but because our steadiness gives them strength. We become a lighthouse in a storm, not loud, not demanding, simply unshakable. And in that unshakable presence, something profound happens. Their lives improve because ours is anchored. That is the meaning of being indispensable, not the pursuit of admiration, but the responsibility of becoming someone who makes others stronger simply by existing. We do not carry them, we teach them to walk on their own. We do not fight their battles, we show them they can win their own. And now, at the end of the road, the shadow of the first question returns. Why do some people become unforgettable while others fade into mediocrity? The answer was never about talent, fate, or opportunity. It was this: the mediocre wait to be shaped by the world. The indispensable decide to shape themselves. People never remember those who react to life. They remember those who act with purpose, and when that purpose is rooted in self-mastery, discipline, calmness, courage, and an unwavering refusal to let destructive emotions dictate destiny, then a person becomes not only valuable but necessary. The story was never about the world choosing us, it was about us choosing who we would become. And so, the journey ends where it began, in the quiet moment when we ask ourselves whether we will fade into comfort or rise into responsibility. The ending was always hidden in the beginning. We become indispensable the moment we stop waiting for permission to be extraordinary. And if we walk this path not once, but every day, the world will not simply notice, we will change it.